عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. حياكم الله. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين والعاقبة للمتقين وصلى اللهم وسلم وزد وبارك على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين. Welcome back to our live stream. This is our third session where we want to read some of the most authentic ahadith when it comes to as-siyam and Ramadan, fasting and the month of Ramadan, and anything and everything to do with it, inshallah. So the aim is to read about 40 ahadith, inshallah, during the month of Ramadan and explain some of the most essential, most basic ahkam, some of the rulings to do with Ramadan whilst reading these ahadith. Remember, you can, it's a live stream, so you can ask questions. You can put them in the chat here on Riverside or also on YouTube in the comment section. And if there is time in the end, we will try to answer some of those questions. MashaAllah, tabarakallah. So today we have another 3 ahadith with us, inshallah. Let me bring it up on the screen. Bismillah. Today's topic, barakallahu fikum, is fasting whilst on a journey. Fasting whilst being a musafir. So there is plenty of ahadith, or a number of ahadith, and remember, all the ahadith we are reading are muttafaqun alayh, agreed upon, meaning they're not just in Sahih al-Bukhari, the most authentic book of Sunnah of ahadith. They're not just in Sahih Muslim, arguably the second most authentic book of hadith, but they're in both, which means it makes them muttafaqun alayh, agreed upon, which is the highest level of authenticity when it comes to the sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So there shouldn't be no questions whatsoever. There should not be any question when they're in Sahih Bukhari or Sahih Muslim in the first place. But when they're together in both of them, then there is absolutely no questions about the authenticity of these ahadith. That's just to start off with. So today, the first hadith, and by the way, this book here, where we read from, I selected from this book 40 ahadith. Al-Lu'lu wal-Marjan, Pearls and Corals in English. That is the book that sort of puts them all together. All these ahadith that are muttafaqun alayh, agreed upon, they are collected in this book, 2 volumes, Pearls and Corals. We are reading from there, and from there I selected 40 hadith to do or concerning Ramadan and Siyam. The first hadith with us today, barakallahu fikum, is the hadith where it was narrated that Allah's Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam was on a journey and he saw a crowd of people, and the man was being shaded by them, by a crowd of people. There was some commotion. He then asked, what is the matter? What's going on? They said, he, the man in that crowd, around at the center of that commotion, he's fasting and he's clearly having difficulties with fasting. So the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "Laysa min al-birri as-sawmu fi as-safar." As-sawmu fi as-safar. It is not from righteousness to fast on a journey. Which, mashallah tabarak, I mean, it's quite clear, straightforward. And so therefore there's no ambiguity. It's straightforward. If you are a musafir, if you are traveling, you do not have to fast. Fasting is not obligatory upon you. And so what is really, really important here is to sort of always establish the asl. The asl is the default position in any ruling in Islam. The asl when it comes to siyam, especially in Ramadan, as we know for today, for Ramadan, for the Shahru Ramadan, for the month of Ramadan, the asl, the default position is that a Muslim has to fast. A Muslim, obviously with all the conditions, a Muslim who is an adult, and he has bulugh, is sane, healthy, etc., etc., that's the default position. It's a pillar of Islam. Breaking the fast without any legitimate reason is a huge sin, right? And there's a hadith just explaining in vivid terms what the punishment will be for those who are breaking that pillar of Islam and not fasting without any legitimate reason during the month of Ramadan. That is the asl. That's the default position. Now we come to the exceptions. And the exceptions are if you are sick, if you are, and so there are various exceptions. We will read some of those, inshallah. One of them is you are a musafir. If you are on a journey, then you have a legitimate reason. So now the default position changes. If you are on a journey, on a trip, then the position now here is you do not have to fast. There is no obligation on you. Obviously, you will have to make up for that day, right? It is not the case like if you are an elderly person or a terminally ill person who do not, it's not hoped that the sickness is cured, then such a person can obviously feed for every day that they don't fast. But somebody's on a journey, no, you don't have to fast on that day, but later you have to make it up. So that is clear. Which now comes the whole discussion. What is better? What is better? Fasting or not fasting? That's the whole discussion now. And the question here is not about is it permissible. Everyone agrees. If you are a musafir, if you're on a journey, on a trip, legitimately, like on a trip that qualifies to shorten your prayers and combine your prayers according to the majority of scholars, etc., etc., if you're on such a journey, which according again to the majority of scholars is a journey that is 80 kilometers plus, etc., etc., such a person does not have to. So the question is not about permissibility. You're allowed to break your fast if you are a musafir, on a journey, a traveler. The question is, what is better? And there's a lot of discussion about that. But in short, it looks like most scholars have agreed that if it creates an enormous mashaqqa, huge trouble, and maybe even danger to you, to your health, etc., then it is actually haram to fast. It is not allowed to fast. If you are, why? Because you have a concession. You have a permissibility from Allah to break your fast. And now you're not making use of that. On top of that, you're making it so difficult for you that you're actually endangering yourself, maybe even people around you. Maybe you're the driver of a car and you're really struggling whilst you're fasting and you're driving, and you're endangering not just yourself but everyone in the car. Haram for you to fast in such a moment if you are really struggling. That is, it now comes to your own condition. The ulama say if it creates some mashaqqa, some difficulty, it is in your choice. You can do whatever you want. You can fast if you want. You don't have to. If the mashaqqa is more closer to a dangerous, the mashaqqa here is the difficulty, right? If it is more closer to a dangerous difficulty, then it becomes makruh until it becomes haram. And if it is okay, you're not finding it too difficult, then it is in your choice. If it makes no, that's the second level or second category. The third category are those who are traveling and have no mashaqqa, no difficulty whatsoever. It doesn't really change anything. You're traveling, I don't know, to Birmingham. You're in the train. There is no labor. There is nothing going on. You are legitimately a musafir, a traveler, but you don't find it no difficulty at all whatsoever. So the ulama say, in such a case, it is better to fast because it's Ramadan and because you would have to make up that fast. And if you're fasting it today and there's no difficulty for you anyway, yes, you have a permissibility, but hey, why forego it? Then you have to make it up later. Bara'atul dhimma. Make sure you have to fast. There is no problems. There is no difficulty. Bismillah, you fast and you go on. So this is the conclusion, really, that although everyone agrees that it is permissible to break your fast, it is, however, your personal condition that really then makes that you should take in consideration when you make a decision whether to break the fast during a trip, during a journey or not. It can be haram, forbidden completely. It can be makruh, which is not desirable. It can be mubah, allowed, it can be rewarded. The whole spectrum is there. It is your personal choice and your personal condition that should inform your choice. And to that end, and I have not included this hadith because otherwise we will be over our 40 targeted hadiths, but there is another hadith here that is narrated. I'm just going to read it out, and you can find it in the book. Maybe you want to buy the book, inshallah. It's really good, so you can read some of the hadiths. But Anas ibn Malik also narrated, and I'm quoting now from the book here. He said, we used to travel with the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and neither did the people observing Sawm, fast, criticize those who were not observing Sawm, nor did those who were not observing Sawm criticize the ones who were observing Sawm, because everyone knew you're allowed to break your fast. It is your personal choice, your personal condition. This is really, really critical, and we always have this discussion. Always have this discussion. And people are, rather than focusing on Ramadan and on Zikr and Quran, you have this huge discussion and sometimes a debate and sometimes, Habibi, really, these are the most basic ahadith. Let's just read the Sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and it will just end all of this debate and this nonsense sometimes that we have. Allahumma musta'an. Right, before we go to the next hadith, there is one addition that I need to add, and it is something that a lot of people get kind of misunderstood, which is when am I allowed to break my fast if I am on a journey? And the point here really is in the question. You are allowed to break your fast when you are on a journey. Once you become a traveler, a musafir. Really, really important to know. I'll give you a case study. So let's say somebody has, the intention to travel, I don't know, tomorrow, Tuesday, from here to Medina. May Allah grant us all to go to Medina and Mecca and perform Umrah and visit the Masjid of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. But if somebody has that intention, he's booked a ticket, packed his bag, everything is ready, but the flight is, let's say, at 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock p.m., afternoon. It's an afternoon flight. When am I allowed to break my fast? If I am... So the point here really is that you should still start the day as a fasting person. You must fast. You cannot just because of your intention or because of your ticket or because of your itinerary, that alone does not allow you to break your fast. You still have to start tomorrow, Tuesday, whilst you're at home. You still have to start fasting that day. Only once you become a traveler, this is really, really important. Only once you become a traveler, that is the moment when it becomes permissible for you to break your fast. And a lot of people make that mistake, that sometimes when they have an intention to travel on a particular day, even if the journey is set to start later on, inshallah, in the day, they start the day with, yes, I'm traveling on this day, so I'm not fasting. That's not correct. You must start, because so many things can happen. You may have a ticket, the plane may get cancelled or delayed or whatever. You may have a flat tire if you want to go by car. So many things can happen. So who guarantees that you will be a musafir, that you will be traveling? No one guarantees, right? So only once you actually become a musafir, then and only then it is permissible to break your fast. So let's say, for example, you are set to travel to Birmingham, right, by car, and so the most scholars say when you are in the car and you are on the trip and you have left, according to some, the last houses of your city, and some say the last houses of your borough, only then you are now officially a musafir if your journey is intended to be a long journey, 80 kilometers or more. If you just go to, I don't know, to outside London, 20 kilometers, and you come back, that doesn't qualify as safar, and you still have to fast and you still have to do your prayers on time and in full and so on and so forth. I hope that is clear, inshallah. We go quickly and swiftly to the next hadith. We have spent a lot, but all of the hadiths today are in relation to Ramadan and safar, traveling during Ramadan. So this is another hadith here. Anas radiallahu anhu narrated, we were with the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam on a journey, and the only shade that one could have was the shade made by one's own garment. Now, they're exposed, they're outside, they're in the desert, it is hot, no shade, no trees, nothing there. They were really struggling. Those who fasted, and now that we said, some fasted, some didn't. The choice. So they knew. Those who fasted did not any work. And those who did not fast served the camels and brought the water and also treated the sick and the wounded. So the Prophet ﷺ then said, whilst observing this, right? The Prophet ﷺ said, ذَهَبَ الْمُفَطِّرُونَ الْيَوْمَ بِالْأَجْرِ. Allahu Akbar. Today, those who were not fasting took all the reward. All the reward. Subhanallah al-Azim. So here, we learn a couple of things. Number one, you got to have the presence of mind, to know the priorities. If it is really, 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 if you're really struggling and, you can't do not just your duties, even some of the extra stuff here, helping others here is the reward. You have a concession from Allah. You can make that day up. You're really struggling. So those who broke the fast took that concession and then started to help everyone else. They are the ones who actually got away with the bigger reward here. And that is the presence of mind, and that is the knowing of the priorities, which is really, really important. MashaAllah, tabarakallah. We also learn, on a side note here, from this hadith, barakallahu fikum, that we should never make our siyam, our fasting, an excuse to be lazy, not to do the work, etc., etc. If you go to work, for example, to school, don't make that excuse. Don't say, oh, I'm fasting today, I can't do this, I can't do that. No. It is not an excuse to break your fast. You still have to fast, even if you have exams, and you go to school and you go to work. There is not, but it is really embarrassing sometimes how Muslims behave at work and so on and so forth. This is not befitting for a Muslim to make a pillar of Islam and such an important ibadah kind of the excuse that you can't do no work on something. Doesn't work. On a side note, some people sometimes ask, what if I have heavy work, and what is it? Again, the default position is that if you're not musafir, if you're not sick, you have to fast. Doesn't matter what work you have, doesn't matter. At least you have to start the day fasting. Now, I understand summertime, sometimes Ramadan, fasting time, people are outside sweating, it's really difficult, but they're not musafir, they're not, not sick, they don't have no excuse legitimately from Islamic perspective. They still have to start the day fasting. This is obligatory only whilst when you're outside and you come to the point that you become dizzy, or you see that this may end up hurting my health in a really bad way. That is when you then become a sick person or a person who is ill and therefore has then a legitimate reason not to fast. So you can't start the day saying, oh, today I have heavy work outside, I will not fast. No, you still have to start fasting. But once the legitimate reason comes to you, you become dizzy, you become ill, or just before you become really ill, that is when you then have a legitimate reason to break your fast. And again, it comes down to your personal consciousness. You have to weigh up, obviously, between taqwa, fearing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as much as you can, and hurting yourself, because the essence or the goal of fasting is not to hurt yourself, not to hurt your health, etc., etc. So there is a balance that one has to strike. Right, last hadith for today. Again, a hadith, Maymuna radiallahu anha, who narrated that the people were doubting whether the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam was fasting on the day of Arafah or not. So she said, so I sent milk while he was standing on Arafah or at Arafah, فَشَرِبَ مِنْهُ وَالنَّاسُ يَنْظُرُونَ. He drank from it, he drank the milk, and the people were looking at him. So first of all, Arafah obviously is not Ramadan, but it is one of those days where it is really recommended to fast, unless, that is, you're going to Hajj. When you are in Arafah, on the day of Arafah, the general ruling is that you don't fast. You don't fast. You know, the fasting is for those who don't go to Arafah on the day of Arafah. Those are at home, those who are not blessed to go Hajj. May Allah grant us all to go Hajj, mashallah. But here, the Prophet ﷺ could have easily then said to the Sahaba, you know, don't fast, today is Arafah, but there is 100,000 people, 120,000 people, according to some narrations, even more, during the Hajj of the Prophet ﷺ. So, demonstrating to everyone, you know, actions are louder than words. The Prophet ﷺ drank the milk, demonstrating to everyone clearly, this is what I am doing. So the Sahaba were at ease, radiallahu anhum, sallallahu alayhi wa radiallahu anhum. They were at ease to break their fast because they saw that their role model, the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa wasn't fasting either. Right, that is it for today. These are our 9 ahadith for today. Let me see if there are any questions. I'm going to the chat here. Bismillah, anything? I can't see any questions. Do we have anything on YouTube? Very quickly. If not, then please remember to make dua. Make dua for yourself, for your family, for your relatives, obviously. For Apex as well. MashaAllah, tabarakallah. I'll share a little bit more about our school maybe a little bit later. But then also obviously for our brothers and sisters around the world, in Palestine, in Gaza, and other places. Right. No questions on YouTube as well. That is it for today then. Inshallah, we call it a day. هذا وصلى اللهم وسلم وزد وبارك على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.